Greetings, everyone. So, I wanted to come and talk to you today about why I quit social services. The new moon has me in a very reflective state of mind, a reflective time, and I just wanted to share my experiences with everyone else, right? So, I have a master's in mental health counseling, so that's my background, and mental health counseling is very similar to social work, right? And so, the job opportunities for mental health counselors or licensed practical counselors, right, are similar to social workers. Right? So when I started grad school, I never had the intention of working in social services. I thought working in social services sucked, right? Because when I got out of undergrad, my bachelor's degree, I started working in social services, right? At first, I wanted to give back, but I knew that when I graduated from grad school, I wanted to do more individual sessions. I had in my mind that I was going to do maybe a private practice, or when working in social services, I would do a lot of individual sessions and clients would come in. I found a very different experience. So, social services, the jobs that I was drawn to were with high risk populations, and also these were the jobs that I was able to obtain. Right, my first job in social services was at a homeless shelter. It was a homeless shelter, all men's unit. And they were MICA, so mentally ill, chemically addicted, right? And so that was a tough job, right? And I left that after 8 months, not because of the clients. I didn't leave that first job because of the clients. I left because of the way I was treated as a worker. I was a residence counselor, right? The whole structure of that role was disorganized, right? People would call out and I would have to cover shifts, and it just wasn't even worth the money. And my second job was as an academic advisor, which I really loved, but I couldn't work that and do grad school at the same time once internship came up. So I then graduated. It was difficult getting a job because I didn't have experience, I didn't have a license, and because a lot of places hire social workers over mental health counselors. That's what I was finding, but I was still applying to roles. Even if they said they were looking for an LMSW, I still applied, because it's pretty much the same thing when you graduate. So I found myself working in foster care, right? And foster care, again, I was not able to stay, and it wasn't because of the clients. It was not because of the clients. It was because I wasn't paid well. It was a part-time position. I thought that I was going to be able to find something else, and I wasn't able to find something else. The position was far. I was living off of change, pretty much. I just wasn't paid well, and it wasn't sustainable. So then I found a full-time position working in preventive care, right? And so that is going to people's homes and conducting therapy there, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And I found with that job, working in preventive care, I worked in preventive care for maybe 10 months. I worked in foster care for maybe 3 months before I had to find something else. So when I was in preventive care, I felt that it was less about the clients that was disrupting for me and more about the way the organization that I worked for was structured. But the clients also gave me a lot of trouble, right? So in preventive care, I worked with teenagers who were in danger of entering into foster care. They were in danger of going to jail because of their activities, lots of truancy, things like that. And in this position, I found that clients were being enabled, right? Parents were being enabled teenagers were being enabled by the inadequacies of the position, right? Because I am going to someone's home and telling them what to do, right? There's no real effort for the client to leave their home, come to session, and participate in session. So this is completely different than what I thought, therapy was going to be like. And it became non-therapeutic, right? There were times that the therapy model that I was trained in, right, working in preventive care, it didn't work for every client, right? And so this is something that you learn in grad school is unethical, right? So if you have a client that doesn't match up to this therapy style, the client should be able to leave. You should allow that client the opportunity to just find something else. And this is very different from the way social service is structured, because when a client doesn't meet the therapy model, we try to convince them to stay or create limiting options in the social service agency, right? It's a whole system that's structured to get these clients to stay in this therapy process. And I get it. It makes sense for engagement. It makes sense to prevent teenagers from going into foster care, right? It's very difficult for clients, but I felt there was a lot of enabling for clients where the therapist was always coming in and providing support. So when you take that support away, even if that client has been in sessions for 3 months, for 6 months, they have difficulties functioning. And it made me question the success rate of these programs, these preventive care programs. I don't think they believe they're enabling clients. I felt like countertransference was not addressed properly, right? Countertransference wasn't addressed properly. Clients would be disrespectful, say that they hated me because the process wasn't working for them, and I was supposed to let all of that go and say I apologize, right? I was supposed to apologize for these clients for disrespecting me after I have given all of my time to this client, twice a week, 3 times a week, long reports, 10 to 14 pages due every week on one client, being on call 24/7, calls in the middle of the night, text in the middle of the night, and to be told that, I'm hated, and the supervision, they were not able to answer some of my countertransference. I feel like it was neglected. And, I feel that this is also another thing that is an issue in social services where, the social worker is not really treated like a human being, and it's easy to get overworked in social services, right? And working in a private organization versus a nonprofit is, it's not a lot of differences in just in how the workers are treated. There's not a lot of differences in how workers are treated. Private organizations are very money focused, right? And so if you're missing clients, if clients miss sessions with you, it's all your fault, right? Like, you need to bring in the clients to bring in the money. And that was difficult, right? I worked in a substance abuse population. I did that for 4 months. So how did I manage all of this quitting? Because I quit all of these social service jobs, right? I couldn't take the amount of work, the stress, the lack of appreciation from clients, from supervision, sometimes the disorganization in these different social service agencies. Also, a lot of bitter social workers. There's a lot, people who have stayed around for years turn out to be really bitter. And I asked myself, do I want to become that person in 10 years. You know, a lot of people, when they graduate from grad school and they start a really crappy job and they're trying to get their license, will say, you know, maybe 3 years, I'll just do this for 3 years, and all I have to do is work this job for 3 years, and it's going to be okay. Where you're not considering your mental well-being and your emotional well-being over that 3 years. I have a strong belief against working jobs for the sake of money and for the sake of licensure, right? So putting myself to the side. This is where I spend most of my time every day, and I dread going in. I'm against that. I don't think that that is appropriate. So I began my own business. I could not work for anyone in social services. My degree pretty much allowed me to work in social services only. And if I wanted to break into another field, I would have to start an internship, which is just not reasonable because I live in New York City, and it's not reasonable for me to continually be on internship and get paid $9 or $10 an hour. That just is not, it doesn't work for my life, right? So I found a lot of freedom in owning and operating my own business, right? So I do spiritual counseling. It is consultant work. I don't do clinical work, but it's so much more freeing. I don't dread having session with clients, and there's more leeway to creativity, which I think is important. It's important for me to be as creative as possible, whereas in these social service agencies, it's not feasible to be creative all the time, right? You can't just decide I'm gonna switch up the therapy model, right? In these agencies where there's a specific therapy model, you can't change the model based on the needs of your client. You have to stick to that model because everything is based off of statistics and paperwork and funding, right? Which is kind of ridiculous, right? And I tended to be more spiritual anyway, right? I was on a spiritual journey, especially after I quit my final job in preventive care. After that, I really began a spiritual journey. I did work in substance abuse because I was concerned about money. But now my perception around money has completely changed. I've been focusing on manifestation and really centering my thoughts and being positive. Now, this is not to completely knock social services because I feel that other people have different experiences. I feel that people have experiences where they love what they're doing and they love the work. Some people are workaholics because I think social services is for workaholics. It just is, right? People that work from the time they go into work to the time that they're leaving. It's constant work, especially with all of that paperwork. And people love that. There are people out there that love that. And I think working in social services, you definitely need a lot of self-care. That is something that cannot be put to the side, right? Which I think for workaholics, they tend to put that kind of self-care to the side. And honestly, I have thought about my experience in social services, and I do think that the perception of me was different because I am a Black woman, right? I feel that there is a belief I was able to handle more. Maybe because my personality comes off as strong or assertive or dominant, right? There's this belief because of that I'm able to handle all of these things which I wouldn't normally accept in my real life, right? Which is like clients disrespecting me. I was told to really put that aside, this need for the respect aside, and go in and apologize. And I just really wonder if the response would have been different for someone else, because how could you tell someone to do that? But yeah, so that has been my experience in social services. I don't feel that I would ever go back. I feel like I am better off running my own business, setting my own rules, especially as a creative, especially as a spiritual person. I am allowed to grow and develop and really hold myself to my own standards, like my set standards, because that's important in my business. It's important for the future of my business. It's important for my growth, both personally and business wise. I think that I am open. I am open to a lot of different healing modalities now, and I am able to do something that I couldn't even have dreamed of when I was in grad school. I never dreamed that I would be opening my own business so soon and that I would be able to survive and thrive off of my own business. I never dreamed that, but it is possible. And I think that's important to hear as well. But yeah, so thank you for your time. So that's been my experience. You can always comment below, send me a DM. Let's talk about our shared experiences. I think that's important. But yeah, until next time.